Your defense hasn't played anybody, man. You haven't played a damn offense with a pulse. Michigan? Michigan doesn't have a quarterback. Michigan literally doesn't have an offense. That's where you were on the road early in the year. Are you kidding me? You're going to hang your hat on that game? That's your big claim to fame here. Yeah, they have a good defense, but when you don't have complimentary football, you can just tee off and get in your game. You saw two early turnovers turn the tide in that game. Oklahoma, I mean, come on, Hawkins, are you kidding me? Look, Pavia gave you trouble. Hostile environment in Vandy. Who have you played, man? The game is back, folks. It's about bragging rights, Twitter fights, your coworker, your doctor, your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your dad, or in this case, your brother. That's Matt. He's my brother. And yep, he's a Longhorn. Some of you guys may know him, some of you guys might not. For those first timers, Matt, tell them who you are, where they can find you, and maybe tell us a little bit about what this rivalry means to you and maybe the state of Texas, because we're a couple of Texas boys, and I think we know exactly how deep this rivalry runs.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Matt. I have a channel of my own called Texas Platinum, and we actually had Drew on recently. Need to watch that video. We broke down the game, kind of in a recent video. So go follow us on YouTube. Yeah, I went to Texas. I'm a big Longhorn fan, of course, diehard, and I'm gonna help give you all the scouting report on our team and see if y'all can take us down. But yeah, this rivalry means everything. It's awesome, man. Growing up in San Antonio, where Drew and I are from, it's definitely a more A&M Texas area of Texas. You know, Dallas is a lot more Texas OU rivalry, from what I understand. Houston is very similar to San Antonio. It's a lot of Aggies, a lot of Longhorns. So it's just every day growing up, you'd always be around Aggies and Longhorns. So it's huge. It's huge in the state, and the Cold War is finally over. It's we're gonna have some answers here on the field finally, and stakes are as high as we could have hoped for. The SEC championship berth on the line, and Kyle Field prime time. It really doesn't get much bigger than this, so it's going to be a movie.
I know, man. It runs deep down here. It seems like everywhere you turn, there's a Longhorn, there's an Aggie. And I have a couple questions about the rivalry itself for you. But first, if you guys could like and sub to Matt's channel, that would help him greatly, especially you Longhorns who have stumbled into here. We both try to keep it pretty even kill when we cover our teams. We'll cover each other. We touch on all of college football. So if you could sub to him, sub to me, that would help us greatly. We really want to focus on kind of the matchups today more so than just the rivalry itself. But we would be remiss not to talk about what this game means. And Matt, when you think about an Aggie, when you think about that goon in maroon that you hate so much, who comes to mind?
Billy Luigi, probably.
I did not expect that. It's Billy Lucci.
Yeah, Billy Lucci.
Oh, God.
Yes, I don't know. I don't like Lucci too much, but you know what? I've been listening to him a lot recently, and he's been very professional. I like that guy, but I guess like player wise,
No, it could be Twitter personality. Like for me, for Texas, it's the faceless trolls that show up when I'm talking A&M football playing Notre Dame. That's what I think about. It's the people that without the face, because you get a little trash talk in person, but it's the faceless trolls that throw you the slurs that kind of get me. But for you, I understand Billy Lucci. But sorry, continue.
yeah, I mean, we have those too. There's a couple that come to mind. Rude Dog is one of them. I see him on Twitter a lot. Um, there's, I
We're dropping names here. Continue. Oh, go ahead.
don't know what
This,
you're asking here.
no, this is perfect.
Yeah, Rude Dog and Cooper Cuffy, I think's the other one that I'm familiar with. I just see him on Twitter at all times, just always trying to one up us. But they know deep down Texas is the better program, the better school. Not to say A&M's not got something going because they do with Elko, so it's going to get real intense here. But yeah, I think like the trolls and the Twitter war, the Cold War has really been so prominent over the last decade, and now it's on the field. I think player wise, I think some of my memories are Dvorsky Lane, big old fat guy, but he was so good. I remember as a kid watching him tear us up that one year when we had Colt McCoy get hurt, and y'all won that game in Austin. And I remember VY, winning a comeback game in 2005. So I have a lot of memories as a kid of this rivalry. Recently, it's all been Twitter, like you said, and all the personalities like Billy Lucci and Rude Dog.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of hard to hate on players. I think this rivalry is personified in the trash talk between the fans. And that's typically where my bad blood between rivalries comes from, is this fan interaction. And it's so good to finally actually put it on the field. So a lot has changed, I would say, since the last time the two teams faced off. For A&M, we'd like to believe that the investment in the program has significantly increased since the Big 12 days. They've made more money in the SEC. They've gained a little bit of fame and fortune after the Johnny Manziel era, but, have sputtered with a couple of coaching, fizzles, I would say, hires that were once, promising in the SEC, both in Sumlin and Jimbo, and, just never really panned out. And we'd like to believe we're on the upswing again with Coach Elko, a more less flashy, no nonsense, detail oriented approach. And, in addition to that change, I think Kyle Field should be a totally different venue than the last time you guys were there. Same 12th man, but a literal rebuilt structure. That's different about this game now. And obviously, we're in the same conference again, but it's the SEC. So, a lot riding on this game. A trip to that SEC championship's on the game. The SEC will run through the state of Texas. That's a guarantee. Now, let me ask you this. It sounds like Texas is pretty much a playoff lock. Does that take anything away from this game for you? Does that take any of the luster, any of the shine off of the game, knowing that you can lose this game and still have all your goals on the table? Or is this rivalry enough to make you guys feel like this is a throw the kitchen sink at it kind of game?
No, I think you throw the kitchen sink at it, and I hope Sark and everyone feels the same way, even if Texas is a lock. I don't know if we're a lock. If we lose, let's say we lose by like 10 points, and then things fall certain ways on Saturday, and then you got conference championship weekend too. Maybe if someone steals a bid, I don't want to bank on Texas getting in with at 10-2 with no great win. So I think Texas has to have a sense of urgency, and even so, if we are a playoff lock, which we might be based on like the odds you see out of Vegas. I think that this game is so big time. And getting to the SEC championship is, Sark has said that's been our goal the whole season, to win the SEC, not to win a national championship, it's to win the SEC. And I feel the same way as a fan. I feel like that'd be such a strong message to send year one, getting to Atlanta and winning, getting revenge on Georgia, and then also bumping A&M out as a result. Because if we don't win, A&M goes in our place, which would suck. So I think the luster is only turned up a notch. I think this is as big of a stakes as you could ask for, like I said, and I think all the juice is there, and I hope our team. I think they are. I know they are. They're preparing like it's a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see it the same way you do. I do think that your brand, whether it's right or wrong, probably unethical, is going to carry y'all to the playoff, even with a loss here. So I think you have that going, but I totally agree and respect the fact that you want to win the SEC, because yeah, a natty's great, but winning the SEC, that's honestly pretty close to a natty in my opinion. That's a big deal, is winning that conference with all the teams, all the power in that conference, and we want it really bad too. So it's just thank you OU. I know you probably won't say that, but thank you OU for getting your job done versus Bama and really getting us in this high stakes kind of a game, because A&M was obviously sputtering, especially defensively versus Auburn and South Carolina before. I guess we'll get into the matchup now. Let's break this up in two sections. First, let's talk about what I think most people would say is the most compelling side of the ball, and that's when Texas and Quinn Ewers and that stout offensive line, Sark's offense versus Mike Elko's defense. I think this is how movies are made. I think this is a dream matchup, and unfortunately, I think A&M's had some. I know A&M's had some surprising struggles defensively recently, and I don't know. I think the Texas offense is maybe a little bit under where I thought their ceiling would be at this point in the year. Not bad by any means, but you know, I think I expected a more consistent running game. I think I expected a little bit more consistent quarterback play. But you've won your games. It's that's nitpicky. But it's Sark versus Elko. It's the great offensive play caller, the great scheme guy, the great play design, the great scripted play guy. One of the best scripted 20 in the sport. The way you start the game with your scripted plays in Sark, and one of the best third down gurus in the sport in Mike Elko, and what he can do to create, simulate, and paint a muddy picture with his pressures. And he's obviously a guy that develops DBs to a really high level. So I'll kind of give you my thoughts about this matchup first, because this is also me giving my final thoughts of this game, and I'm going to give my score prediction at the end of this video. So I'm going to give my thoughts kind of on this matchup first. For A&M, it's about creating pressure and affecting Quinn Ewers. Simply put, secondary's had some struggles this year. I don't know if they're just going to magically go away, specifically giving up deep balls, specifically giving up balls over their head. And what keeps that at bay is going to be consistent pressure on the quarterback, and you'll have a hell of an offensive line to work with. Now, I will say A&M's D line has got it done against a pretty good one in LSU. They were able to find pressure in that game. So that would be kind of the data point saying, okay, this D line, this pass rush can get it done against a very effective multi first rounder, probably offensive line in LSU with Emery and left tackle. What's his name? Blanking on the name.
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell. So I look at that game. I look at the progression we saw from A&M early in the year, and then you run into this problem you've seen the last couple of weeks with South Carolina and with Auburn on the road. With South Carolina, you couldn't tackle those big bodies. I don't think Texas will prevent that same threat, but we definitely need to mind our P's and Q's in tackling and just be better in that regard. But versus Auburn, we saw just not able to find a pressure consistently. And then again, quarterback escape came up in the clutch of the game. So I look at that. I look at that to help our secondary out. I look for our linebackers that have kind of been a variance point on the defense, some good, some bad throughout the year. Again, we were on a good trajectory there until these last couple of games. I look for them to have a really kind of important role in maintaining discipline with all the eye candy that Sark will show us. But it really comes down to the pass rush helping everything out and helping everything breathe. Now, when I'm looking at Texas's offense, I think Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback. I think he's limited in some capacity, specifically in the physicality department, the physical tools department, but he has the arm. He has the feel for the game. He has all the arm angles. He can extend plays. I look at the running game of Texas as the X factor on this side of the ball. I think you got to get pressure, but I think if Texas can find a running game consistently, I think A&M's in a bad spot. You haven't really had that all year. And I don't know if you'd agree with me there. But if we can stop the run and we force Quinn to pass a bunch in the game, I think we're in a good spot. I'll give you the floor here. Maybe take us through maybe some of the thoughts on what I just said, and then specifically get into some strengths and weaknesses of your offense.
I agree. The run game for Texas is probably the ticket to making sure that you win the game. If you have a good run game, you're probably going to win this matchup at least. And I think Sark has been really intentional with that recently, getting that run game going, leaning on our veteran O-line, Kelvin Banks, DJ Campbell, Hayden Connor, Cam Williams. He's a first rounder. There's a lot of just talent and experience on that O-line. And it's kind of crazy how Sark's been going with so much misdirection this whole season until like these last 2 weeks. We were kind of struggling in Fayetteville, and Sark decided, let's just run the ball straight forward, like towards the end, and we just iced the game. Same thing happened in Kentucky. We opened up a good run lane. So I think the running game is key, of course, and that's the strength of our team. Sark built it from the inside out, which is refreshing compared to Tom Herman and Charlie Strong. We have a great tight end, Gunnar Helm, who is a nightmare for a lot of linebackers because he's just so slippery and savvy, and he's big too, and he's very he might win the Mackey probably. He probably will actually at this rate, which is the best tight end award, and he's a guy that can get loose and make a defense pay. And then Wisner's come on as our RB1 because Jaden Blue has had fumbling issues. So Wisner had a good game against Kentucky. He's got good vision. He isn't really like a home run threat, I wouldn't say, but he's a very good every down back recently, and he's getting better and better every week. He's like a freshman, so he's doing well. But yeah, Quinn is injured, like you said, and even if he was healthy, he does have lapses in a lot of games where he just looks scared out there whenever a defense gets to him. But then there are also games like Alabama where he was stepping up in the pocket on the road and making throws as he was getting nailed downfield on the money in like big time moments in that fourth quarter. So we're hoping we see some of that out of Quinn, but honestly, I don't have much faith in that right now. He's been so up and down this year. So I really hope we rely on the run game to really just set the tone, set the pace, and really just get us downfield to make things easy on Quinn and Sark. And then you can go over the top. And I think A&M secondary is very exploitable with our receivers. And if Quinn's on, I think we'll definitely have some yards through the air. Matthew Golden has really come on. He's a stud transfer out of Houston. Bond has been great. He's been hobbled up there, so hopefully he can be a little healthy for this week. Ryan Wingo, as you know, super explosive. And DeAndre Moore is kind of like our new Jordan Woodington, our guy that's a great blocker, but he can also make plays. So we have a good receiving core, and we have, on paper, our offense should be better than it is, been up and down, but hopefully we get a good one on Saturday.
All right, I'm going to ask you for extreme honesty here, and wherever you want to take this, go with it. When you look at your receiver core, have they lived up to your expectations on the year?
Um, I would say yes. I think the problem is Quinn Ewers can't throw him a deep ball, and that's kind of stunted their growth. But they don't drop balls. They're great when they do get the ball, and they're able to get yards after catch and just be explosive. So I think they're doing all they can. I really think they just had problems with Quinn and his consistency and getting that chemistry going. As far as like their talent and output, I think that um, that they're doing what they can. But yeah, I mean, you would rather have I would rather have Arch Manning in there because our offense was just so much more explosive and it just worked. It looked so easy with Arch. And I know he didn't play the greatest competition, but he
Yeah.
just looked so natural going through progressions and throwing the deep ball, which is a huge point in Sark's offense historically. But like we don't have that with Quinn Ewers because he can't throw it within 5 yards of anyone downfield ever. I don't know why. So I think the wide receivers are just like limited because of Quinn's just lack of consistency and injuries this year.
Yeah, it seems like Gunner has really picked up all the slack whenever things aren't working out. You just hit Gunner helm and he makes a huge play. And it's a catch and run. He has everything really in his arsenal. All right. So, one offensive key. If you do this one thing in the game, you'll have offensive success. And make it maybe not something super simplistic like Quinn hits his targets or something like that. What do you think is one kind of thing maybe you don't always get that if you get it this game, you're good?
That's tough. Put me on the spot because I already said like the simplistic thing, like able to get like 3 to 4 yard rushes consistently. Able,
You can repeat. That's fine. You can reemphasize.
that's huge. So you can just stay on schedule. Honestly, Texas has struggled with a lot of holding penalties this year. In weeks past, we've really reduced them, which is good. So I think that'd be something to watch if we're holding a lot. That's an auto drive killer for us. So if we can reduce that in Kyle Field, that'd be big time. But I think Isaiah Bond is due for a big game. He's been hobbled up. He's been not even playing that much recently. He's in the game, but he gets spelled a lot by Wingo just because he only got so much gas in the tank currently with his. I think it's his ankle that's been bothering him. So I think a big Isaiah Bond game, getting him on crossing routes, um, and testing that secondary with him downfield is a could be a moneymaker for Texas if Quinn has some time, which that's also a big key. I already said that, but giving Quinn a little bit of time,
Yeah.
that front seven for A&M is no joke.
Yeah. And if I were to give my one kind of overarching key defensively against Texas, I would think, and I talked about this on another show with Ghost the other day. I think winning first down against y'all is so huge because I feel like when Sark gets into manageable situations and he has his full playbook available, well, that's when he can be Sark. But when you get him in obvious passing downs, that's when defenses can key off and tee off, and Elko can be where he's at his best because third and long is A&M's favorite, position to be in on the team based on their strengths. So if we can win first downs, force you into passing downs, I think that's always a key to a football game, right? But specifically with Sark, and from what I've seen, whenever you're using deception, whenever you have guys in motion, whenever you're doing fake, lateral, fake handoffs, even fake passes into the flat for a deep ball like y'all did a couple of weeks ago, that's when y'all are scary. But if we can get you into straight up dropbacks, that's where I think it plays into A&M's favor. I would like to see our DBs. The reason I brought up the receivers is because I have a feeling we have a couple of DBs that can try to match up man to man, and that can kind of free everything up and not be as susceptible to eye candy. So I'd like to see us be able to try man to man every now and then, just to kind of avoid that pulling of the net that Sark can do with those zone defenses with all of his eye candy. So winning first down would be my huge defensive key, and it's really going to be about can coming home bring a better defense out from A&M, because you saw, I mean, what do you make of A&M's kind of defensive struggles before we get to the other side of the ball recently, and does it kind of perk you up a little bit?
Yeah, it's encouraging. There were times in the year where the A&M defense looked really good, really salty, especially with like those pass rushers you'll have with Stewart and Turner and Scorton. Uh, so yeah, I think it's encouraging the fact that Peyton Thorne, a guy who's been a journeyman, seemed to look so good against y'all. But I mean, he played a good game. It wasn't like I don't want to trash him too much, but Yeah, but a big part of that was him hitting those deep balls, which Quinn hasn't been able to do. So Quinn's got to hit at least some of those when they're there this weekend. And but yeah, I
Yeah,
think I expect to see a better version of the A&M defense this weekend, no doubt.
yeah. Honestly, I don't know if your receivers are probably better route runners, probably better after the catch, but I think we just played the best jump ball receiver core in the SEC with Cam Coleman and Lambert Smith. I think those two guys are just ridiculous jump ball guys. I know you have Wingo; he's a young guy. I don't know, is Golden a jump ball threat?
Oh yeah, he's not huge, but man, you can throw him a fade and he'll catch it. He's a beast.
Yeah, these two guys, they got us when we're pretty young in the secondary. We were missing Willie, our senior leader out there. So I'm very intrigued by that matchup. I think A&M can prove something. I think with those matchups. But again, Sark, he's the weapon. He's the one that frees a lot of receivers up with scheme. So winning first down is going to be huge. Let's move to the other side of the ball. Texas's defense that really is kind of why they are what they are right now. Texas's defense has been just, I mean, surprisingly better than expected after the pieces you lost last year, after what the secondary was last year. And I acknowledge that front seven is athletic and it can get after it and it is nasty. And I can't wait to hear you pick it apart and tell me what kind of makes it so great. And of course, the A&M offense out there that is trying to kind of rebuild itself after losing its heart and soul in Le'Veon Moss. And Colin Klein's had a hell of an assignment with that. Not only are you dealing with that, you're dealing with, quarterback change, quarterback controversy, if you will, quarterback turnover. You're dealing with some injuries to the O-line. But I think in the Auburn game versus a good defense in Auburn, a top 15 statistical defense in the country before that game, I think they found some stuff in the passing game. I think they found some stuff scheme-wise and realized what they have to be is a very diversified outfit that gets a lot of players involved. Now, as good as Auburn's defense is, there's a good chance Texas is a step up. I think this is a really good litmus test for the Texas defense going into the postseason because, I mean, I don't think y'all have played many great offenses, and I think you would acknowledge that. But you've done what you're supposed to do against the level of opposition you've played and dominated most of those matchups. So I'll give it to you. What makes this Texas defense so great, and how did it turn around so much from last year?
It's just it's got playmakers at every level. There's not really any weaknesses to the defense. It's got veterans on the D line and great edges that can get after the passer with Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Barron Sorrell. Those are grown men. And then at linebacker, you got Ant Hill leading the pack, but you also have David Benda, Maurice Blackwell, and Leona Lafau, who are always seem to be in the right spots for the most part and very physical, and they come downhill fast. And then in the secondary is probably the strength of our team. Probably the best secondary we've had since the 05 team. You got Jade Barron, who probably won the Thorpe in a couple weeks. Malik Muhammad on the other side, who's honestly really good corner. People don't talk about him much because Barron exists, but like he's in that category, I would say. And then you got great safety play with Taff. Jelani McDonald's coming on hard, and Makuba, the transfer from Clemson, gets a pick pretty much every game this last back half of the season. And he's a pro. He's just a grown man in the secondary. So and then Gilbo also plays a lot too at our star, who's come on a lot. So there's a lot of depth. I mean, our twos are really good. Sark's built a really deep team, and you really see it on defense because offense we kind of roll with the same guys, but defense we got probably like 25 guys that contribute every week, and they're all pretty disciplined. We don't really beat ourselves too much, so it's just a solid, deep defense that really has players at every level.
All right. So has anybody been able to kind of exploit it at all? And if so, how did they do that? Has anybody had any kind of consistent success against them?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned this earlier. We haven't really played like giant receivers that are just jump ball threats. I know Arkansas had some. They didn't really get to do much against our defense, but I do think like throwing it up to Noah Thomas or I think Jade Walker might be a big guy. Throw it up
Yeah,
to him.
6'4".
Yeah, throw it up to those guys. We haven't really had that kind of test yet, so that could be something worth exploiting. But also, I think just running the ball downhill, right at our D tackles, specifically whenever Broughton and Collins are off the field, because they do rotate a lot, and you bring in like Savea and Bill Norton are like our number twos. They're susceptible to giving up 4 or 5 yard runs, and teams that are intentional about that are able to string drives together, but teams that get behind the sticks or get, down by 10 points. They have to abandon that and change their identity and start passing our secondary, and our secondary just starts teeing off on them, and Ant Hill comes off the edge. So I think just staying on schedule is these are all cliches, but I think it's very critical for A&M to slow the game down somewhat, and be methodical with their possessions, and not try to win it all at once. Get a 3-yard carry and then another 3-yard carry, then you have third and manageable, and you can create from there.
Yeah, and for the season, the O-line, the push they're able to generate, the pass pro, it's all been really, really good. I would say there's been some breakdown recently because you lost maybe your second best O-lineman in Chase Basantis, and you have some youth filling in there, and I think we've felt the effects of that, especially in the South Carolina game. But he should be full go for this game, if not pretty close to 100% relative for this part of the season. So we're really excited to see if we can generate a run there. But of course, we're down to Le'Veon Moss, and that really, really hurts. He was just the main production piece that he was like the head of the spear for our offense pretty much. But we've had to kind of reformat, and it's really built around Marcel Reed, his ability to move around, pass on the run, Marcel RPO, Marcel zone read, Marcel play action. What do you expect out of Marcel Reed in this game, and how do you feel about the guy?
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think this guy can be one of the Aggie greats when it's all said and done if he stays in the trajectory that he's on. He's dynamic. He's getting better as a passer, and he can extend plays and create. It kind of reminds me of like a dollar store version of Jaden Daniels right now, or like a very young Jaden Daniels. Um,
Their
and
numbers are actually very, very similar from their freshman years, although Jaden Daniels was a true freshman, I think,
yeah, exactly. But
down to the percentages and everything.
yeah, but I will say he hasn't. I think this will be the best defense he's played so far because he didn't play Notre Dame, did he?
He didn't
Even,
play Notre Dame. I think South Carolina, honestly, right now, I mean, you might argue with this. I think they're as good as anyone in the country defensively.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they don't statistically they probably won't stack up, but then you can say we don't play good offenses. But anyways, I think that we match up well this season, knock on wood, with that style of quarterback. Really, all quarterbacks. But I don't know. I respect him a lot, and something's got to give because he's looking good, and Texas's defense is looking really good too. So I think we'll find out a lot, and this could be a
Yeah,
party for him, or we could just fold under the bright lights.
yeah. There's it could definitely go both ways at this point. But what I was just kind of saying on some of my other shows right now is I feel like the natural trajectory of his career is leading him to a point right now where he is kind of on the cusp of becoming like a very solid quarterback, but he still has that young inconsistency about him. Now, I wouldn't bank on this happening, but this offense is really predicated by him right now. I mean, he's a quarterback, of course it is, but they're running a lot of the stuff through him. You didn't have much success running the ball to Amari Daniels versus Auburn, like 3.2 per carry in the game. And a lot of the running game was built off of zone read to the receiver, zone read to Amari, RPOs where he's throwing to either the tight end or the receivers, and everything's kind of going through him. And I'm at a point where I think he might have like a breakout game in him in a spot like this against a good defense because he is that kind of player if he's just on for a game. But that's by no means a guarantee. All that to say that this game is going to be pretty heavily on Marcel Reed's shoulders. Now for A&M, offensive X factor, just like Texas, would be if we can get 4 yards of carry, that opens everything up for us. But we haven't really been able to do that since we lost Le'Veon Moss. And hopefully getting Chase Basantis back, we haven't had him in the 2 losses we've most recently sustained. Hopefully that gives us more of a push and we can actually try to exploit that interior D-line that you were just talking about right there. So just reemphasize it. I'm going to ask you the same tough question. What would you say one main defensive key, overarching key? You win this, you do this thing, you win the game.
I think you don't want to have Marcel Reed just running around crazy, even if he's not getting upfield. Just I don't want him to be rolling out and having time outside the pocket, just looking downfield, playing like backyard football. Because I think he is the best athlete we've played at quarterback by far this year.
Is it the best offense you've played against? I know it's not great, but
I don't
is
know.
it? It's us or Vandy, right?
Honestly, like I didn't think of y'all having a good offense until like the Auburn game. Honestly, maybe I'm a hater, but I
No,
don't know.
you're right. It's been a work in progress. We're a year one. What's made our offense good is we are top in the SEC in red zone scoring. So when we get our chances, we make them. We're like 95% scoring in the red zone. We also have a really good kicker. We should have the kicking game advantage in this one. I would think, because Auburn's been inconsistent this year. But that's been kind of our thing. It's like we make the most of our chances. But I think it's turning a corner where these receivers are getting involved. Marcel actually was accurate in his jump balls. So I think your key of just kind of keeping him at bay and not letting him get comfortable or even getting out of the pocket is a really good one, because that's where he can really make you pay. And I'll ask you this: who's spying him? Is it Anthony Hill?
I don't think so. I think Anthony Hill, they just let roam free. I think he's too good to be set on as a spy. We really don't spy much, honestly, which is kind of surprising against. But it's just a different type of scheme. But Ant Hill will spy here and there, but also look for David Benda to be in there and Leona Lafau, our other linebackers, as
Tell me
spies.
about those two guys. I mean, are they big? I don't know much about those two. Are those long developmental guys?
Yeah, Benda's like a seventh year senior. He's kind of like he looks like Devin White out there. He's very super athletic guy. He's not great in pass coverage, but he's great against the run, and he's really fast and physical. Leongo Lafau is like a redshirt freshman that's kind of coming in spell of Benda, trying to get him ready for next year because Benda will be off and gone and graduated. So he's come on a lot late in the year. He's like a Hawaiian guy, 4-star guy that's really playing well. But I don't think he's the fastest guy. I think that's a guy that Marcel could definitely outrun to the corner. He's probably one of the slower guys on our team, at least on our starting defense. So that's a guy that number 18 that Marcel could probably get around. But
I will say one thing that was impressive about what South Carolina and specifically Auburn did most recently, maybe that's just the freshest game on my mind, is the guys that they assigned to Marcel Scramble were very, very athletic defensive ends or linebackers. They could catch up with him if they had the angle. So, I mean, maybe that makes me perk up a little bit. I know you have a lot of speed to make up for that right there with your ends and your other linebackers, but maybe that's an area we can maybe get after. We'll have to see. My offensive key, I'm gonna have to get greedy here and give you a couple. First of all, if you can get even over 3.5 a pop rushing with Amari, not including Marcel's scrambles, because those could push us above overall in the rushing average. But if we can get over 3.5 from Amari and we can hit deep shots, those are two things we have to do just to keep Texas's defense uncomfortable. Because if we're one dimensional, y'all can tee off on us in either regard, I would think. So I'm looking at Klein to draw up his shots. You know, they've been there. Marcel hasn't always hit them. He's kind of, lost accuracy over 20 yards at times, but this is the game where he has to start hitting those when they're there, because they have been there. Our receivers have been getting open. And like you were just saying, big dudes. I'm really excited to see Marcel target some of these guys in jump ball situations, because I think Noah could be as good as anybody in that regard if he can have the quarterback play to complement him. All right. We've gone through the offenses and the defenses of both teams. I think you would concede that A&M has the kicking advantage. Would you say that goes for punting as well?
yeah, the punter's a joke. Honestly, not a joke. He's a high school punter, I would say. So we can't flip the field very well. That's what happened in the Georgia game. Our defense played great. We were stuck on our own end zone because we would turn it over and then do a 30-yard punt or one of the two. So yeah, y'all will definitely have a better punter and probably a better kicker. Brett Auburn used to be good, but he's been having troubles lately. So I don't know if he's trustworthy right now. But he has made some big kicks in the past. So if it came down to it, there's at least a chance he could show up.
Last question before we get into score predictions, and I'm nervous to give mine because I'm still going through it in my head. What did Georgia do right against y'all? What did they do defensively that really messed y'all up so we can recreate that?
Yeah, I think I talked about this in our other video. They blitzed a lot. They were very intentional on getting Quinn uncomfortable. They gave him different looks, like a pre-snap look, and then they would change at the last second and have shifts right before the snap that would confuse our O-line. And just they were very creative on defense, and they forced, I think, 4 turnovers, which of course is huge. And we were always in bad field position because of that, and it just kind of compiled it. And our run game really wasn't established. Sark kind of panicked and abandoned the run pretty early in that game and tried to pass, and then they started teeing off on Quinn, who was like, he was flustered, of course.
Yeah, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think there's probably a lot of merit to having late shifts or late pressure looks or late adjustments defensively, because after 15 seconds when the comms cut off, it goes away from Sark's hands and it just purely enters Quinn's hands. And Sark's the one that's going to do all the chest moves and match the looks he's seeing. So if you're waiting till under 15 seconds to make your adjustments defensively, you're putting it in Quinn's over Sark's hands. So that I'm just kind of putting that together on the fly. That makes a lot of sense as to how that can really help, paint a picture for Quinn that maybe can take him out of his game. So hopefully we can do some of that. Hopefully we can match up with receivers. Hopefully all that can happen. Yeah. Score prediction time. Since I already heard yours, I'll let you go first and I'll give you mine.
Yeah, so I'm very nervous about this game. I think A&M's a good team and Elko's got it going. It is year one though, and it's just hard for me to see A&M in the SEC championship in year one. I think the team is really good, gets a lot out of it, but I think there's a lot of flaws with A&M. Same with Texas, we have our own flaws too, but we're a little more veteran, and I think just the timeline for Texas, like we're supposed to win this game, we're supposed to go back to the playoff and hopefully compete for a national championship after coming up short last year. So I think we get a good enough Quinn game, and if it's not there, I hope Sark is ready to pull the plug and go to Arch because this is a must win. And even if Quinn's healthy and he's not playing well, like you got to give yourself a chance to get to the SEC championship and win this game. So I'm hoping Sark, like Georgia, isn't afraid to go to the bullpen if things are starting off poorly offensively. But I trust our offensive line. We got a bunch of grown men there. I trust our D line. I love our secondary. I know they'll rise to the occasion, and I want Marcel Reed to try to test us downfield and see. Maybe he will get us. But I'm looking forward to that matchup. But I got Texas winning 27-24. But of course, very nervous. The fact that it's in Kyle Field doesn't help at all. And I know this is a very talented A&M team, bunch of 5 and 4 stars as well. So I think it'll be a heartbreaker one way or the other. But I'm going to pick Texas 27-24.
Yeah, I like what you said. Texas is supposed to win this. Texas is supposed to be in the SEC championship. A&M has no business winning this matchup. It seems like the kind of place where an Aggie might thrive, being doubted, being the underdog. Look, there's a lot going in this matchup in your favor. There's a lot that you're doing well right now that A&M has not done well in the recent weeks. But we're coming home to Kyle Field. We've been a worse team on the road for 3 years now. I, by no means, expect this defense to struggle in Kyle Field like it has the last 2 weeks. I'll be honest. I think Auburn has better receivers than you do. I think Peyton Thorne on a good night is as good as Quinn Ewers is. Okay, I'm joking there. But that's an explosive offense with a lot of pieces that can exploit our secondary. And our D-line had an off night. Not happening. Quinn will be on the ground. This is a multi-sack game for A&M, maybe a 2-3 sack kind of a game because you do have a really good offensive line. But I think that there's a treasure chest of third down moves. And again, Sark will have a treasure chest of offensive moves to counteract that. But I think A&M can control this game with their defense. The only thing that scares me is if you can find a running game. I have confidence in A&M's ability to defend your pass. But if you find a running game, and I see that early, I will quickly understand that this is going to be a very tough assignment. For Marcel Reed, for that side of the ball, it's coming together at the right time. Is it too late? I feel like you're kind of catching us. Like we've been kind of like this since losing Moss. Maybe we were here with Moss a little bit going up. After losing Moss, we're down here. And I feel like you're catching us right as the angle is turning. You know what I mean? I feel like you're catching us right at the beginning of our upswing offensively, like the offensive scheme coming together now. Is that enough to go up against this defense? Your defense hasn't played anybody, man. You haven't played a damn offense with a pulse. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback. Michigan literally doesn't have an offense. That's where you were on the road early in the year. Are you kidding me? You're going to hang your hat on that game? That's your big claim to fame here. Yeah, they have a good defense, but when you don't have complimentary football, you can just tee off and get in your game. You saw 2 early turnovers turn the tide in that game. Oklahoma, I mean, come on. Hawkins, are you kidding me? Look, Pavia gave you trouble. Hostile environment in Vandy. Who have you played, man? You haven't played anybody. Marcel Reed is going to have a good game. Texas A&M's defense is coming big in this game. A&M wins the game 31-27.
Man, you sound like all those crazy Aggies out there that like A&M's time to rise up. This is like a tale as old as time,
It's so perfect.
Old A&M against Texas, and Texas always wins, and this is how it's going to be again. It's how it always has been, always will be. Texas will win.
Yeah, we talked about at the beginning of the show. This is a different A&M now. Talent-wise it is. There's no longer this big talent discrepancy that y'all had in the 2000s. Y'all had quite a big discrepancy. Y'all were in a really good part of your program. We were very much down there. Things have changed. The talent, I would say y'all have some talent higher in their arc than we do. You have more consistency in your coaching staff, on your team, on who you brought back this year. But we're right there and we have the home field advantage. And this team clearly is a different team at home than on the road. And that's been the same case with the same players going on 3 years. And I'm banking on that. And A&M wins this game. And, not that confident in the pick. Y'all could definitely win this game. I mean, that's just what I'm feeling. But I'm betting A&M in this one. I'm taking A&M money line, actually. And I'm parlaying that with a bunch of other bets because I'm going to make a lot of money this weekend.
That'll get you enough money to buy a ticket to Atlanta then. But I will say the talent discrepancy, that's true. With Jimbo, y'all acquired a lot of 5 stars and 4 stars. But I will say that talent discrepancy is kind of going back to how it used to be because Elko is not a great recruiter, at least at this stage.
Dude, he's number 1 in 2026. What are we talking about?
I mean, that's 2026.
He's got a huge head start in that class. He's way ahead of the ball in that class.
Guys, they're not going to sign with A&M. That's 2 years away. Trust me.
Okay. We'll revisit. I mean, we're 9th in the country right now. I don't think we're in a hole by any means. And Elko's playing from behind right here. And you're seeing that his chops, his evaluations, they're hitting. Because look at the portal guys we brought in. They've all been X factors for the team this year in very short order in a year 1 system. His evals hit. He's maybe not pulling in the 5 stars that we were before, but he's playing from behind with all these guys in 25. 26 is going to be a great class for A&M. But regardless, that's a different story. Recruiting battles are another thing. This game, obviously a big recruiting visit for both teams because we're going to have a lot of battle guys there. So, the winner might get a little extra boost in that regard too. And also a boost of going to Atlanta, getting in the SEC championship, more exposure. It's huge. But yeah, man, I think I got everything I need from you. I think we got a good feel for each other's teams. Any closing thoughts on the game? I think you said it all.
No, I just love how everybody says Texas hasn't played anyone, and we haven't played a good offense. We haven't played a good defense, apparently. We haven't played anything. We just went 10-1 against the trash SEC schedule. And went to the big house and won by 30. So yeah, I hope our players take that personally because I think they finally have a ranked team to play. I mean, we beat ranked teams all the time, but they become unranked. Vanderbilt, OU, Michigan after we beat them. So
I hope they take it personally. What are they going to do about it? They're not that good.
And then y'all gonna be unranked too, and then we're gonna have no ranked wins. So, but thank you for having me. This has been fun. See, this is the trash talk that we're talking about. This is great.
Yeah, I saved it for the end for you. All right, guys, make sure you like and sub to both channels. We appreciate you guys being here. See you after the game. Gig 'em.
Hook 'em.